Okay, I want to talk about developing an intimate relationship with the piece of land. And what that means is that you want to monitor the land and look at the ecosystem from different components. All right, you start by doing an assessment of the ecosystem, and that means viewing the land as a living organism. So we're going to look at the four elements as components of the entire place, which is viewed as a whole. So to begin with, let's talk about water. If you have water on your land, it's very important because it's a biological niche that you depend on. If you're using it for irrigation, it's even more important to monitor the land and look at what it is and where it's coming from and so on and so forth. So a couple things you want to look at with the water is there a drop into water? Having a drop into water provides oxygen. Oxygen is important for life. And so if you don't have a drop into water, if you don't have a sufficient amount of oxygen, you might want to create a pump, a fountain, something like that to put water. I'd say this stream here probably has adequate oxygen in it. Secondly, you want to look at the riparian borders, and that's the plants that are growing along the sides. These are in pretty good shape. There's some room for erosion up in here. Sometimes the stream or creek may be a border of your property, so it may be difficult to do a lot of work on both sides of it. The third way to monitor for the creek is by doing what we do with Adopt a Stream program. And that's, I take an old window screen, basically like this, and stick it in the water. I'm going to demonstrate this by sticking it in there. It helps if you've got somebody here to also hold the other end of it, but if not, you'll have to use something to prop it up. You can build a window box, but I prefer to recycle things, so I've got these old window screens. So basically, you want to go upstream. You want to look at your lower end. You want to stick it in the water. You want somebody to prop it up, or you set something up where you can prop it up. Then go upstream and start to disturb the floor. Get in there and shake it up a little bit. If you've got rocks, brush the bottoms off of them, and then you go down here and start seeing what kind of things you collect. Once you do that, you'll get an idea of the macroinvertebrates that live in your stream. The macroinvertebrates are indicators of how clean your stream is. You can go to the chart that I've listed with mostream.org and get an idea of what that entails and what kind of insects. That's a perfectly good chart for monitoring insects and looking and viewing who you have, as far as whether you have caddisflies, mayflies, stoneflies. If you've got things like salamanders within the creek's in incredibly good shape. You also want to look for lizards, reptiles, turtles, frogs, various things like that. They're all indicators of a clean stream. So that's very important in viewing that component. And this same thing applies to ponds or anything, as long as you've got flow. With water, you've got to have flow. When it doesn't flow, it's stagnant, and that is not healthy for an ecosystem. Okay? Next, we're going to view the woods. So we're going to move into that area next and look at the ecosystem and how that relates to the entire place.